Happy Friday and welcome. Um, Thank you all for tuning in and being here today. It's Sam, and if you didn't know, I'm here today with my friend and published author, Erik Steidl, to talk about writing, publishing, and more. Hey, Erik.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, 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 good.
Thanks for being here today. I'll let him tell you a little bit more in a minute about his writing and his published work. I didn't want to steal your thunder, but we'll definitely talk about that. But I'm very grateful that you graciously agreed to be with you here today and answer some of our questions about writing, publishing, your work, your success, and more. So, of course, I have some questions prepared, but I also want to make this an interactive discussion. That's kind of the benefit of doing a live video. So anyone here is watching this today, I think we have at least one viewer already. Post your questions in the chat about writing, publishing, or any of those topics. Again, for someone who has been published and knows at least a little bit more, maybe a lot more on this topic than I do. We want to hear from some of you too. So yeah, join in. So Erik, can you tell us, just for anyone unfamiliar, about your history with writing and what you've published and your major works or work or whatever?
Yeah, so I started writing in earnest. So my day job, I'm a teacher. I
Right.
teach up
Okay.
in Cleveland, Ohio. I teach English as a second language. There's a large Puerto Rican population on the west side of Cleveland, so I teach English as a second language, and then I teach Title I reading, which it's like a reading recovery, reading
Yeah.
interventions for low-level readers up there.
And you work on
Um,
writing in all your free time.
yeah, exactly.
Between teaching and what, 4 kids, do you say?
Four kids now. Yeah, four
Wow.
kids.
Yeah.
Um, and then also I have two jobs that I work on the side because teaching in Cleveland does not pay a whole lot.
Understandable. So you got a
But
full plate.
yes, yeah, definitely a full plate. But so I started writing in earnest because I found that a lot of the reading passages that we would use for my students up in Cleveland weren't really applicable to their lives, to their backgrounds. Um, for example, like we'd be reading a story about a kid building a treehouse. I'm like my students up in Cleveland, they have no idea what a treehouse is really. They've never seen a treehouse. So they really had no it's scaffolding, right? They had no context for what that was, and so they weren't interested in it. They weren't engaged in it. So
Mhm.
I started writing just short stories for them that were more relevant to their lives, and I'd do things like I'd use my own students' names in the short stories,
Cool.
uh, because also a lot of the stories that I used, they didn't use names that really my students had, right? There were
Yeah.
no Dewans, D'Anthony's, there
Okay.
were none of those in the stories. And so really I started writing as a way to engage my students.
Huh.
And that kind of morphed into the first book that I wrote, which is a children's book called The First Ostrich to Fly. Um,
Okay.
and so and so that was my first published work. I self-published it through Amazon KDP, which is Kindle
Yeah.
Direct Publishing, and we can talk more about that process later,
Sure.
because that's something to navigate for sure.
I believe it.
Uh, and so then after that, I started writing my work that just got published about a month ago, which is a teenage novel. And it's funny. I kind of actually wrote that because of the pandemic, right?
Okay.
So my wife and I we were volunteering with our local church as middle and high school small group leaders, and then on Sunday mornings we ran kind of the middle school ministry at our church. And then all of a sudden we go from seeing our kids every Sunday morning, being able to engage them that way, to we can't see them at all, right? Like church shut down.
Everything
And
gets
so
shut down.
we're faced with kind of the problem of, like, how do we still engage middle schoolers, especially in the scripture, in the things of God, while not being able to talk to them, right? And so what I decided was like maybe I could do writing. And so what I did is I took one of the most interesting stories in the Bible, which is the story of David and Jonathan, right?
Hmm.
And so I retold it from a minor character's perspective, who's also like a teenager, right?
Cool.
Just to kind of give it a slant that might engage middle schoolers better. And so if you're not familiar with the story of David and Jonathan, uh, so David and Jonathan are best friends, right? Jonathan is King Saul's son, so he's the prince. Um, and David is one of the commanders in King Saul's army, right?
Hmm.
Um, and but then so
And he's supposed to be the
Saul,
next king. Yeah.
what's that?
And he's anointed to be the next king or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And so David gets anointed to be the next king. Um, Saul doesn't even know this, but Saul's super jealous of David, right? Everyone loves David. David's got this huge success as this army commander. People are singing his praise, and so Saul is really just kind of self-conscious. It seems like he's a guy with like low self-esteem, not a lot of self-confidence,
Hmm.
and so he makes this plot to assassinate David, right? Um, and so in the end, Jonathan finds out about it, and they kind of sneak David away. So at the end of the story, the signal that they use is Jonathan shoots an arrow, and so like the signal was if the arrow goes past the rock, then David had to leave. It wasn't safe. If the arrow landed in front of the rock, he could stay in Israel, right? So Jonathan shoots the arrow, and then the Bible says that he sent a boy to go fetch the arrow while he and David say goodbye. And so
Okay.
I told the entire story from the perspective of the boy that Jonathan sends to go fetch the arrow. And
Cool.
so I took that character where there's literally only one line in the Bible about him, right? There's like 7 words, and I kind of just built that out, and I gave him a name, I gave him a background, like
Yeah.
how did he come to be in the employ of Jonathan, right? And so I kind of just took some creative liberties. I made him the one who actually discovered the plot to kill David,
Okay.
because the Bible doesn't say who discovered it, right?
Fair.
And so I just kind of filled in the edges of this really intriguing, suspenseful story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got everything. It's got best friends. Jonathan's got this conflict, this inner conflict. Does he go with his father? Does he go with his best friend? And so I took this really intriguing story that covers all of like a chapter and a half in the Bible,
Hmm.
and I just built it out a little bit. And so that's the latest story.
Okay.
um, and so I actually got a publisher for that one,
Yeah.
Crosslink Publishing. It's this tiny
Okay.
Christian independent publisher out of like South Dakota.
Hmm.
But yeah, they really wanted to jump on that story, and so yeah, working with them has been great.
Okay.
We can hash out what that looks like
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I'll ask you more about that in a minute. I didn't realize you had gotten started or that you had begun writing because of teaching. I have a teaching background too. I'm not in it currently, but my wife is still a teacher, and there's a lot of teachers in my family. So I could talk about that more if we had all the time in the world. But
Yeah.
that's really cool. And tell us the name of your book, just for anyone who didn't catch it.
It's called Ayal the Arrow Boy.
Okay, Ayal
Um,
the Arrow Boy. Yeah,
yeah,
and you
A
said it just
Y A L, Ayal,
AYAL, the Arrow Boy. Okay, you said it
the
just came
Arrow.
out last month.
Yeah, the official release date was June 1st.
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
very good. It's cool that now that we're mostly past the pandemic-ish. I mean, things are coming out again, and I guess for you it was the first time in this format. But I mean, like a lot of the creativity that people were able to work on during the pandemic is we're seeing the fruits of that now.
yeah.
So I like that. Okay, we kind of covered this already. I was going to ask you what inspired you to write this particular story from biblical history, and I know you kind of told how you got interested in that. But I mean, I'm sure um, we've all seen some bad biblical fiction. I'm sure, and I know there are some good ones out there. I've read some really interesting ones also about like David and his mighty men, and basically the stories of the great feats they do. I mean, historical fiction, of course, but it's but it can be done well. So I guess I would ask why this one story. What caught your eye about that story?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. I was just reading
Okay.
through that and I was like, you know what? This would be a pretty good story. Like, it was probably just what I was reading in my Bible at the time. And I was like, you know what? Who was that kid that Jonathan sent to go fetch the arrow? And so it kind of started from that question, really.
Okay.
And so then it just kind of built out from that.
Okay. And it is more of a it's teen focused. You said it's like young adult level. Okay.
Yeah, so I
Very
was
cool.
I was just kind of also looking at like just kind of the market, right? As a
Yeah.
writer, and like teen and middle grade fiction is such a huge market right now, right?
Really
Like
is.
it's got like, I mean, Harry Potter is what, like 15, 20 years old now or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
And still
but I mean,
popular. But
yeah, it started with that, and that kind of led to this booming like that. I mean, then we've got like the Hunger Games, the
oh yeah,
Divergent series, Twilight, all these like huge uh, series of
franchises.
teen fiction. Yeah, these huge franchises, but there's none really geared towards specifically the Christian teenage market, right? I
Okay.
mean, the best thing that we've got is like, Chronicles of Narnia, and
Which is
that's,
great. But yeah.
yeah, but that's like 60 years old, right?
Hmm.
67 years old whenever C.S. Lewis wrote that. So there's kind of just this dearth in the market for Christian teen fiction. And like you said, there's like there is some biblical fiction out there, but I kind of wanted to do it right,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, I mean, I'll quote C.S. Lewis, and briefly, and I've shared this quote before, but he said, "We don't necessarily need more Christian books, but we need more Christians writing good books." Or if it's
Right.
both, that works too. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's a right and a wrong way to do it, possibly. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. And so I've actually seen there's actually kind of a growth in the market. Like Ted Decker,
yeah, I read
he
some of his.
writes. Yeah, so he and his daughter actually started writing a teen fiction series as
Okay.
well, for a Christian teen fiction series. So there's a lot of authors that are starting to jump in and try and write good literature for Christian teens. And so I'm just
Yeah,
trying to kind of be a part of that,
but
engage.
there's room for you to jump into the market. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. Who are the biggest influences on your writing? Who or what? I was going to ask for either authors or books or writing style or ones that you think have influenced you.
So if I had to say, I'm trying to model my books kind of after the Magic Tree House type
Cool.
style. As
I,
far as
I
like,
read those as a kid. I was very fond of those as a kid.
yeah, I love them, and I think it's by Mary Pope Osborne.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And I think there's like almost 100 in that series now. So I have
Is it still going?
I don't know if there's any like new ones
Okay.
out
I
there
have not
currently.
kept up. I know I read probably 30 or 40 of them as a kid. I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah. And now, so my oldest son is in second grade. He's going into second grade, and so he really loves those.
Okay.
And so I like those because they're fictional, right? But they also bring in a lot of nonfiction type themes. Like each book has a theme. Dinosaurs Before Dark. The theme there
Right.
is they're giving a lot of facts about dinosaurs. You're learning about prehistoric times. Then there's
Yeah.
like Dawn of the Saber-tooth. You're learning about the Ice Age. And so I
I think
kind of,
she started releasing like like nonfiction companions to each one too.
yes,
Like
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I use those a lot when I'm actually teaching up in Cleveland,
Very
uh,
cool.
because it's an engaging way of teaching nonfiction stuff, right? And so I kind of want my books to be kind of that way. So it's teaching the story from the Bible, but it's doing it from a fictional, fun kind of not fantastical, but like a fun fictional way of
Yeah.
teaching the story from the Bible in like a new and engaging way.
Yeah, absolutely. Good deal. Okay. Yeah. What are your biggest struggles with the craft of writing or editing, or what's the hardest part of the process for you, the writing process?
Finding time to do it.
Well, sure.
You know?
Yeah. With everything you told me, I'm sure that's true. Time and
Yeah.
motivation, I bet.
Yeah. So My wife works night shift at the
Okay.
hospital, and so like normally how I write is my wife will leave at about 6:30, 6:40 for her job at night, and so then I clean up the dishes, get the kids bathed, get them to bed, and then I come down and I try and like an hour. I'm gonna sit down and try and write for an hour, but lately we just had our fourth kid in December.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Yeah, so about 7 months ago, and ever since then, like it's been hard finding the motivation. Like I'll get them to bed and I'll come downstairs and like I'm just like I just feel like I don't have the mental energy to
Yeah, I
do it.
believe it.
So that's a struggle. And then along with that, it's really tough because I'm working on my second novel in this series now,
Oh,
and
it's gonna
it's
be a
really
series. Okay.
yeah. So
A sequel? Yeah.
we can talk more about.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a sequel to this book, but it's kind of in the same biblical fiction.
Companion-ish. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll ask you
Uh,
about that a little later. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
yeah. So what's been really difficult with this one in particular is um, is just getting the pace and the flow of my writing.
Okay.
Because if it's been 3 weeks since I wrote, the last half of chapter 7, getting back into the flow and having just a congruous, consistent, style, diction, whatever. Starting chapter 8 is difficult
Yeah.
when it's
Yeah.
been 3 or 4 weeks since you wrote last. So
Sure.
that's been my most recent challenge.
No, I get it. I mean, we only have one kid, not four, who is almost one, and I mean, I know some people say they like to write in the mornings, but some of us work full time, so I'm like, yeah, maybe 8 to 10 o'clock at night when he's in bed. That's my key time to
Yeah.
write if I'm motivated. It's easy for me to play games or whatever too. But
Right.
if I motivate myself, I can do it then. And I get what you mean about like getting out of it for a while because I think I did a short video on this a while back, but like over the holidays we were traveling and I was like in my novel I was at a climactic scene, but then like in real life I was getting interrupted. I'm like it doesn't feel like it's very fast paced, but it's supposed to be. So
Right.
it's tough.
Right.
It's tough to get yourself in that mindset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so in my latest novel, like I'm coming up to the point where it's supposed to be like the emotional climax of the story, right?
Okay.
And I haven't written for like 4 weeks, and I'm like, no, like I need to go back and reread everything to bring
I was,
myself
I
emotionally
was
out
gonna
of the
say, do you
story.
go back and read or review or
Yeah,
to get back
so
into it?
yeah, I'm really gonna have to like get motivated and just well, and then the hardest part now is like just rereading without editing, because like now as I'm reading, I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh, I need to change that. But like, so I'm gonna have to tell myself, nope, this time, like I'm not reading through to edit right now. I'm
Yeah.
just reading through to get emotionally back in the state where I can write like probably what's the most important scene in this book.
It's hard because we all want to. We all want to. We all want to edit and I mean, I want to fix my own stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then, what is your biggest strength in writing, or what's the one thing you think your books do really well? Or
Um,
maybe more than one thing, but yeah.
So I think my biggest strength is description, right? I think
Okay.
that I'm very descriptive in my writing. I try and consciously add in something from at least like four of the senses in each scene. So smell. It's not just what he sees. What does the character smell? What does he or she feel? How does the air feel? Right? How does
That's
the
good.
sun feel? Try and bring in like multiple senses, like the taste, like so in one of my scenes, um Ayal, the main character, is eating a piece of bread with butter and honey, right?
Yeah.
So like adding in as many of the senses as I can. How does the bread feel on his hand? It's warm, it's moist. How does the honey and the butter feel going down his throat? How does it taste? How does the bread smell? All of these senses, just to try and draw the reader in and like help the mind picture in as many ways as possible what's going on with that character. So I make an effort to be as descriptive as possible. I'd say that's my strongest my strength in writing.
Very good. That's an area I know I need to grow in. I'm always being told I'm heavy on dialogue, but I don't always do enough description or enough world building. So it's good. We need that. We need the imagery and such.
Yeah.
What's a writing tip you would offer people? Possibly one that people overlook or don't know.
Um, so one of the things that I noticed, because I worked with one of my wife's parents' friends in editing, she was giving me writing tips, and so she said, when I was describing my main character, she's like, you use the word he to describe him almost every time, and she counted it in one page. I used the word he 24 times,
Okay.
right? And she's like, you need to find different ways to identify that character. So you can say he did this, then like you can use his name, Ayal, then you can call him like the boy, the runner, like find as many different ways of identifying that character as possible to keep it fresh. You're not just saying he ran, he tripped over a log, he looked up into the sky. You can say Ayal was running when he tripped. The boy laid on his back looking up into the sky. So
Good.
that was a really eye-opening thing when she literally circled every time I used the word he or his. Just that one third person pronoun, and I used it like literally 24 times in one page. And she's like, "That's way too much. That's boring. That's lame. The reader doesn't want to read that as much." So that's a really good tip, I think, for writers.
Good deal. Yeah, I noticed in my writing. I'm trying. I've tried to cut down like some of the fluff. So I mean, I know I used to be very wordy. So I think my more recent novel is more minimalistic. It's but it's like, I guess maybe more in the action. But because of that, I do find myself using a lot of the same sentence structure because I'm trying to do simpler sentences, but then I repeat myself and I repeat the same words, and I'm like, I still need some variety. It's hard to find that balance.
Yeah. And then, so along with that, using just simple past tense instead of saying he had done this, he had done that, just saying he did this, he did that. Just cutting out a lot of those unnecessary, filler words, that just, if you can say something in 7 words, don't do it in 15.
Right. Yeah. It's a lesson. For a lot of us word people, it's hard to learn that. I understand the value of being conciseness. I had professors in grad school challenge me on that. I'm now a professional editor, so I get that. I still need to I understand it, but I still need to practice it more. Or consciously revise my own writing over time. So yeah. Good deal.
It's also so it's weird. It's kind of difficult for I'm 34 for a 34-year-old to write for an audience of 12 to 14-year-olds.
That's fair.
Like I have to consider, like as far as word choice, like is my audience even familiar with this word? Like, or will they read it and just be like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So
is your book? Yeah. Is it third person narration?
Yeah, it's in third person.
Okay, I was thinking if it was first person, that might be even harder, like getting inside the head of a teenager or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's in third person, but it's third person omniscient.
Okay.
So you do know what he's thinking and stuff like that. And then also another huge thing is I can't use like cliche phrases that we say now.
Right.
Because this is written back in like 700 BC or whatever.
If you're going for realism,
Yeah, and so that was another thing where my editor, like, she was like, hey, you can't say this because like they wouldn't have said this back then. And so pulling out a lot of those like colloquialisms that we use now, and making sure that that's not included.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm sure some people have done it anachronistically. I mean, there's a famous example of like Shakespeare writing Julius Caesar, and he says the clock strikes 12 or whatever, and there's no clocks back then. So
Right.
I think people understand you're not using literal Hebrew, but
right.
But you want to make it accurate as possible, and I appreciate that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then also like finding like so descriptive words, right? Like describing colors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like saying like her skin was the color of, you know, whatever, her hair was the color, like making sure that I'm using like words and things that the character would have been familiar in that time.
Hmm.
Uh, so like
Which limits you a lot when we think about how far removed we are in history.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I've been using like a lot of different spices,
Okay.
like like her hair was the color of cinnamon and stuff
Nice.
like that, because that's something that they probably would have had back then.
Yeah.
Or like just using things like trees and just natural things that they would have known, linen, tanned leather. You know, they would have had stuff like that. So just knowing what descriptive phrases to use has been a real challenge as well.
Okay. Okay. Good advice. Good tips. Thank you. I have a few more questions. I might shift it into the publishing realm, but I see we still have a few viewers. Put your questions in the comments too. Want to make this interactive as much as possible. And hear from a lot of you while we have Erik here. So anything you want to ask him or comment on, feel free to comment in the chat. I was going to ask. We touched on this about publishing, but tell us about your publishing process with Crosslink. How did you find them? What was your process like for looking for a publisher? How did you know that they were the right one, et cetera, et cetera?
Hmm. So I started, I mean, so I had the manuscript for my children's book probably like 7 years ago done. And so I spent about 2 or 3 years just sending out query letters to hundreds of publishers for that. Didn't get a single one.
And that can take a while, and can take dozens of rejections or whatever
Well,
before.
you're lucky if you even actually get a rejection, because most of
Okay.
them are just like, if we don't respond within 6 months, we like we didn't
Yeah,
want it,
yeah, yeah.
and so you never even get a yes or a no. And but so I like I said, I self-published that through KDP, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, that is.
Right.
For finding a publisher for Ayal, I actually so what we did with this, I was working with some of the pastors at our church, and what we did is over the pandemic we released the book chapter by chapter on our church's blog.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that I wrote. I was just writing the blog for free for them, just as a way of lending my talents to the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided to kind of use that blog as a way to engage our younger students as well. And so we released Ayal. This was before I was even looking for a publisher. We just released it chapter by chapter on the blog, and I wasn't really planning on doing anything with it. But then when we released the final chapter on the blog, I was like, you know what? Might as well. And so I just Googled like top 25 Christian publishers, right? And so at
Okay.
that time, we were in the middle of the pandemic, and most of them weren't taking any queries at all,
Sure.
any submissions at all. And so I found three of them that were, and literally I just sent the manuscript to those three, and within like 5 days Crosslink came back and they were like, hey, normally we don't take any authors with less than 5,000 sales to their name,
Hmm.
uh, but we really like the manuscript, we like where
Hmm.
you're going with this, and so we'd like to do it. So I
That's awesome.
researched them. Yeah, I researched them, and I asked one of my friends who is published about them, and yeah, they seemed like a reputable company. I really
Yeah.
like their mission. Their mission is basically they don't charge a lot for their books. Their books are very low priced because their mission is just to get quality Christian literature into the hands of as many people as possible.
I'm on board with that mission.
Yeah, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna get rich as an author, anyways. I kind of just do it as a hobby, and so you know what? That's awesome. I'm on board.
It's one
And
of those things. Yeah, it's not like when you're young and you dream of being like an instant millionaire when you publish. Not quite.
right, yeah, I'm not James Patterson, right?
Yeah.
James Patterson makes like 65 million a year. But if you take him out, like the average income yearly for an author is like $1,200.
I
So,
didn't realize that. But
yeah,
still, I mean, it's still impressive that like you said you sent to three publishers. and within a week they got back to you and they were like, we don't usually do this, but we like yours. I mean, that in itself I think is impressive. It's like, I mean, I don't know if it's one in a million, but it's like you lucked out or whatever.
Yeah, I did, and super fortunate to
I
be
mean,
able to work with
also
them.
skill and effort. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I'll call it luck though. They've been great to work with. Every week they sent me like an email with homework to do to try and build my platform
Oh, that's really
to
cool.
try and make the book as ready as possible for publication. And
So
so
they're engaging with you on it's not just like we'll print it and here you go out in the world. It's like they're engaging with you on like building your platform and stuff like that.
yeah, which is
Okay.
awesome because if I do better marketing myself, then they do better as well with
Sure,
sales and stuff like that. So
sure.
it's been a pretty cool journey.
That's really good.
A lot of learning and a lot of growing as an author and as a person.
Okay, that's awesome. I was going to ask you this question too. So what have you done or are you doing for self-promotion / building your platform / engaging the audience, which is part of an author's job these days, unless you're really, really big.
Right.
It's something you have to do.
So I've done a couple of like blog post interviews. I've done a couple of live interviews. I can't. It's pretty impossible to get into schools and stuff right now. A lot of them still aren't taking visitors. Well, right now it's the summer,
Yeah,
but
you mean
all
like trying to do like author visits in your area?
yeah. So I did a couple of virtual author visits
That'd be cool.
with a couple kindergarten classes last year.
Also, but it's hard while you're a full-time teacher too, and you have to
Yeah,
be at school. Yeah,
yeah. I'd be like, hey, I got my lunch from like 12 to 12:45. Unless there's a fight on the playground, then I'm gonna have to go take care of that. And so it was. I've been trying to do a lot of that stuff. I have my own website now. Trying to get into some Facebook. Well, I've been in some Facebook groups
sure.
for authors and then for people who are just asking for recommendations for books and stuff like that. So just trying to network, a
Yeah,
lot of trying to
that's
network,
that's first step.
but that's really hard unless you're really, really into it and really like committed to spending a lot of time networking. So it's a struggle, but
There's people who spend like all day on social media. I
right.
mean, not just like lounging around, but like actively networking and seeking to promote themselves and those connections. And I'm like, I admire that. I mean, it's work. I do a little bit each day, and it feels like work to me. And I mean, I also have a full-time job, so I can't spend hours and hours doing that. And then I'm like, when do you actually take the time to work on your content, like your writing? But
Yeah, they say that like you
yeah,
should post at least once a day on Twitter, like Instagram and Facebook. And I'm
yeah.
like, I absolutely hate Twitter. Like it's just such a cesspool of negativity, right? Like, I mean, if I want to feel like the world is burning around me, like I go on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Because
That's
like,
how I feel about Facebook, but I'm still on it because I'm a glutton for punishment. But anyway,
yeah, I've kind of taken a step back from at least a lot of like the political commentary that I
oh yeah,
used to
that's
do on
all
Facebook.
different ball game. No need to get into it here, but
Yeah, and I've stepped away from a lot of social media aside from like trying to promote my books and stuff like that,
mhm.
just as like a mental health break for me.
Oh sure,
Like I said, you go on Facebook and Twitter, and half the time, like if you relied on that for your sense of what the world is, like you'd think the world is burning around you. You know, you think that
yeah,
like the streets are all collapsing into ruin and but that's what they say you need to do to build your platform is like post at least once a day on Twitter
mhm.
and stuff like that. I'm not good at it. You know, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm trying to network, but it's difficult, especially
sure.
if you have a full-time job and don't want to spend
And,
hours.
and a family, yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's not an overnight success. I mean, maybe if you get it really big, but most of the time, it's like you work for I don't know however many years to build a platform, and then you get big
Right.
or bigger. Yeah, I'm realizing that now in my own process. I've been trying to work at it for a year or two, and I've made some progress and some connections, but not an
Yeah.
overnight success.
Yeah, for a while I was like I blogged pretty regularly, like about once a week. And so I built like a decent following on that. I had like
Sure.
300 subscribers to my blog,
Okay.
but like you said, it's just exhausting trying to constantly put content out there, quality content at
Yeah.
least as far as like full blog posts. It's really exhausting trying to do that content while also working on
Oh
like
yeah.
your next novel and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
They say, I mean, you can do short form content too, which I mean, in Twitter in certain places is a lot more accessible anyway. Like if not not a full blog post, just do like I don't know, a sentence or two, or a short thing, and even that's enough. But I still struggle to do that, every single day or multiple times a day, whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a process, is what we're hearing. Yeah. But I'm glad your company, your publisher is working with you on that. Or you said they send you things to help you with steps you can take, kind of.
Yeah. And so then they also, I mean, they have a pretty wide distribution channel, right? They
Okay.
work with, I think they said they have like over 250 distributors. And so if one of their distributors is say doing something at like a book fair or something, they're like, hey, listen, it's a $25 fee for them to display your book at this like book fair. Do you want to do it? And so they give you the opportunity, yes or no. And so they provide avenues for me to try and do that if I
That's
want
good. I
to.
know not all smallish publishers do that.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people who are published, but I mean, again, but publishing doesn't mean your book is instantly out there. There's a lot of work to do, and some publishers just kind of let you go and have you do it on your own. So I'm glad they're helping you with some stuff.
Yeah, they seem pretty driven to expand and to help their authors out, and it's been a good journey with them so far.
Good,
I mean,
good,
it's
good
not
to hear
like
that.
there's Zondervan
Oh
or
yeah.
anything like that, but I've been really happy
Hey,
to be able to work with them.
I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. So I was looking at your site and your book, the book cover, and I noticed it says you have an illustrator too.
Yes.
So I was going to ask, first of all, do you have illustrations in your book? Are there like a lot of them, or just scattered throughout? And
I
then how
think
did you find that illustrator to work with?
so I think with this book there's like 16 or 17 illustrations scattered throughout the book.
Okay. Is it like
Not a
full
whole lot.
page or just kind of like?
Not even anything that extensive.
Okay.
They're pretty minimal, and we wanted to keep it that way. Just
Okay.
any kind of visual to give the readers kind of a sense of that. Uh, so I've actually known my illustrator. She grew up like three houses down the road from me, where I
Oh, that's
grew up,
cool.
and so she's an art teacher
Okay.
at a school maybe like 25-30 minutes from where I teach, and so
Sure. I just
when
sorry. I just want to give credit. I see it's Kelly P. Harrison, right? Is it?
yeah,
Okay.
Kelly P.
Okay.
Harrison.
Just wanted to give a shout out and I mean I don't know her, but just give credit to the person involved. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
she's great. She actually lives like I don't know, like 5 minutes away from me. Like one of her
Okay.
daughters is in the same grade as my oldest son, and so we've been friends, and then we kind of just decided to collab on. She was actually the illustrator for my children's book as
Oh,
well,
cool. Okay.
and so then when I decided to put illustrations into the novel, I was like, Kelly, you want to do this? And she's like, yep.
Great.
Uh, and so yeah, that was pretty much a pretty seamless I don't know collaboration with her.
Okay.
You hear a lot of stories about people who have illustrators in like Hungary or like
Yeah. I
across the
wasn't sure if it
ocean.
was like if the publisher hooked you up with an illustrator, or if it was like you and an illustrator going into it together, kind of. So that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool.
that's how we did it. We've been working together for a while, and so
Good.
she's doing the illustrations for my next children's book, where the manuscript is already done. We're just kind of getting the illustrations together, and we'll be releasing that hopefully in the fall sometime, definitely
Okay.
by Christmas.
Okay. Awesome. That's a good transition to my next question. I was gonna we hinted this before, but I was gonna ask you, what do you have in the works, either currently or for the future? I know you're working on a next one.
Yeah, so I actually have like so I just have this whole like Google Doc of like ideas,
Okay.
right?
Well, as
And
much as you can share or want to share.
yeah, no, I'm fine with it. Like as far as people stealing my ideas, whatever, if they can do it better than me, good for them, you know. So like the next children's book I'll be putting out, it's called Sammy the Snowflake.
Okay.
And it sounds really, really dumb, but I actually love this story. It's about a snowflake that's scared of heights. And so like the snowflake has to decide whether he's going to stay up in the cloud or kind of like fulfill his life's purpose and like fly down or jump out of the cloud and float down. And
Okay.
it's actually it's way more to it than that.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's I really like this one a lot. So that one, hopefully, Kelly will get done with the illustrations in the next month or so, maybe.
Okay.
Then I think I'm just going to go the Amazon KDP route with that one again. That worked
Okay.
out pretty well with my first children's book. And so that really, it's as soon as I can get it uploaded and the formatting done, then we can have that hopefully around Thanksgiving, and then try and push for marketing it towards Christmas,
Great.
Christmas gifts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as far as my next teen novel, I'm actually starting a trilogy because everyone does trilogies, right?
Why not?
And so this one, it's a trilogy about the foundation of the church in Philippi,
Cool.
because there were three founding members. There was the Philippian jailer, there was Lydia, the seller of purple cloth, and then there was the slave girl who had like the visions, and she told she was like prophesied, but she had like a demon.
Okay.
And so those were the three founders of the church in Philippi. And so I'm doing a
Is it like each book for one of them, or okay?
yeah. So currently I'm working on the Philippian jailer, but I'm telling it from the perspective of his son. Well, it kind of dual. I'm kind of switching back and forth. One chapter will be from the jailer's perspective, the next one from his son as you move through the plot. But I'm giving him a background. So back then in those days, a lot of times jailers were Roman army veterans who had been injured. And so instead of kind of like pushing them to the side, they gave him this cushy job as a jailer to kind of take care of them. Thank you for your service, whatever. So the jailer himself is this Roman army veteran who was injured. So he's got some PTSD issues, and but then the whole book is about identity. Like he identifies first and foremost as like this Roman soldier. That's who he is. And so then that kind of morphs into his job as a jailer. That's his identity. He has so much caught up in, I'm a jailer. This is my job. This is what I do. And so then when Paul and Silas come, and then the earthquake happens, all the doors are opened, that identity is all of a sudden in crisis, right? Like, I've failed as a jailer.
Yeah.
That's why he wants to kill himself. And so the theme of that book is like, where is our identity? Like, is it in our job? Is it in our like who we think we are? Is our identity in Christ as children of God? And so those three I'm pretty excited about, because the gospel, right, and like the difference that Jesus can make in our lives here on earth, not even necessarily talking about heaven, hell, whatever, but like the difference that having a relationship with Jesus can have in your life here on earth is just sown so much into these novels. I'm really excited about it.
Okay, very good. When do you think, like you're working on the manuscripts now? I mean, there's not a publication date yet or anything, is there? Or
no. So I'm about 7.5 chapters into that one. So they're just now meeting Paul and Silas.
Okay. Is it also young adult focused? You said you're telling it from the perspective of the son. Okay. And this wasn't on my list, but I should have asked earlier, or maybe now too. how much historical research have you had to do for these books? I mean, like jailers are usually army veterans. I didn't know that in ancient Rome.
Uh-huh.
I mean, was this all things you knew from just attending church for a long time, or have you done extra research for these books, and how much?
I do quite a bit of research
That's
actually,
good. Yeah.
because like, where is Philippi? I didn't know, so like I had to look up a map and like,
Greece? I don't know.
right. So I mean, like I had to research like, the town of Philippi. What did it mean to like that region, and so researching like what battle would this jailer have actually gotten injured in?
Wow,
What battles did the Romans fight during that time? And
that's
so
really cool.
so coming up with that, I've actually done quite a bit of research into it, which is actually kind of fun. So the
Absolutely.
battle that the jailer got injured in is the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. And Netflix actually, it's funny, came out with a series called Barbarians, like
Okay.
2 months after I started writing this, that focuses on the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, and I'm like, okay,
Huh,
right on, man.
that works.
So I watched through that one and called it research.
Hey, yeah, a variety of sources.
Yeah, now I can write off my Netflix subscription on my taxes as like research for my writing, right?
Living the dream. No,
Yeah.
no,
Suck
no,
it,
that's
government.
that's cool. I mean, I'm glad you're being thorough with it. Again, I emphasize. I mean, we've read some. Most of us have seen bad historical fiction or bad biblical fiction,
Yeah.
or even just it doesn't pay attention to details. And I mean, I'm not a historical fiction writer. I've dabbled in a short story, like a few short stories about biblical characters, but I haven't done much with them. So like I have not done that level of research that you have. So I think it's really cool that you're one learning and researching just for the joy of it in itself, but also trying to make your novels accurate and fit within the narrative we know.
Hmm.
And yeah, props to you.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure, sure.
It's fun. It's a journey, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, yeah, very good. Okay, well, probably my last question for now. Where can people find your books, and where can they find you and your work online?
So they can find my books. So Ayal the Arrow Boy, that's on a lot of different sites. That's going to be on like, Goodreads, on Christian Book,
Good.
Amazon,
Yeah.
Google Shopping, Google Books, all that. I do ask if you buy it off Amazon, leave a good review,
Okay.
because a
Yeah.
lot of their algorithms work off of reviews and stuff like
Yeah.
that. My children's book, which is called The First Ostrich to Fly, that's exclusively on Amazon since I published through Amazon
Okay.
KDP. But yeah, you can go on there. You can just either search my name once you're on Amazon,
Hmm.
Eriksteidl, or you can search the names of the books,
Sure.
Ayal the Arrow Boy and The First Ostrich to Fly. Um, and then you can also get Ayal off of my website, which
Yeah, I was
is
looking at
www.steidlstories.com.
STID or STEIDL
Yeah,
stories.com.
yeah,
Yeah.
Steidl stories.com. But look, easiest way is Amazon. If you have Prime, it's free
Sure.
shipping. So
Does it like do you get more of a commission if it's from your website, or how does that work? Does it?
no, the commission's the same either way.
Okay. Okay.
So the way publishers work is um, yeah, they just have a price that they sell to distributors for, and then
Sure.
I get the same commission off of that either
Okay.
way.
And so that's where you can buy the book. So go buy the book. It's what, 8.95? Is it saying on your website?
It's
That's
Yeah, it's 8.95 through Amazon. I think on Christian Book it's a little cheaper. So look, if
okay.
you want to look on christianbook.com, it might be cheaper there.
Okay. So I mean, I want to buy it now. I haven't yet, but I'm like, it sounds really interesting. So I might go do that. Um, and what about like social media? Like where can people follow you? Where are you most active still?
Probably, I mean, Instagram and Facebook, since they're linked. You just post on Instagram, it all automatically goes to Facebook. My Instagram is Erik.Steidl, is at Erik.Steidl, so that's ERIK.STEIDL. My Twitter, if you want to follow me there, I hardly ever post though. It's Erik_Steidl.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my social. If you want to subscribe to my blog, I haven't blogged in like, I don't know, 8-9 months. It is happy-days.blog, but days is DAZE. Play on
Okay.
words there. Happy-days. And I should start blogging again more. It's been hard, you know?
Sure, I understand that. Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, yeah. Thank you for being here today. For answering some of our questions, and sharing about your story. I admit, I mean, coming into this discussion, I didn't know a lot about your book yet. I had looked at on the website a little bit, but now I'm interested after talking with you. So I'm glad it's going well for you. I'm glad that the journey seems to be working, and wish you the best for your future projects. So any last words, or I mean, last comments for the fans?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really
Sure.
appreciate it. Like you said, any kind of networking that we can do, supporting each other. Like if you want a beta reader for your novel, let me know. I'll take a
Okay.
look at it
Okay.
and
Yeah.
read through it and stuff. And yeah, and
We
hopefully
we writers have to stick together. Yeah.
That's right, man.
Never mind the fact that we're might be each other's competition. Well, we're in different genres, so anyway.
Yeah, different genres, different markets, whatever.
Yeah, so it's probably okay, but yeah.
And
yeah.
like I said, so I heard someone say this. They're like, listen, just like if someone reads your book and loves it, that's not going to preclude them from reading my book. It might actually get them interested in reading more.
Exactly. Yeah.
They find my book because of it. So
yeah, it's all connected, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for being here with us. Those who are watching, thank you for watching today. Thank you, Erik. And everyone have a great weekend and keep writing.
Yep. We'll see you.
Okay. Bye.